All right, welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to cut through some of the noise around the NBA and international basketball.
Yeah,
We've got some really interesting stuff lined up, looking at standout performances over in EuroBasket, but also digging into some team-building philosophies.
For sure. And what's really cool is seeing how these incredible individual moments on the international stage, how they actually tie back into these, very deliberate, sometimes slow burn strategies from NBA front offices.
Okay, yeah, that connection is key. So let's jump right in. We got to start with EuroBasket because some familiar NBA names are absolutely balling out over there.
They really are.
And right off the bat, Deni Avdija, playing for Israel in the EuroBasket 2025 qualifiers. And, I mean, he's just been electric.
Oh, absolutely. One of the clear standouts of the tournament so far. He's pretty much carried Israel to that 16-team knockout stage.
Which, for folks who maybe only catch him sporadically in the NBA, this feels like a different level of assertiveness, maybe?
It really does. And the stats, they back it up. Through those first 4 games, he's putting up 22 points, about 7.5 rebounds, over 3 assists, and 2 steals per game.
Wow.
But it's not just the numbers, right? It's how he's getting them. He's doing, well, basically everything for Israel. He's the primary guy, the go-to scorer. He's defending. He's making plays.
He's really shouldering the load.
Totally. And with a kind of confidence and, control that we haven't seen consistently. Maybe flashes, but not this sustained level in the NBA. So the big question becomes, what does this mean for him back in Portland?
Exactly. Because Portland fans, they've seen glimpses, right?
Yeah.
Especially that stretch after the All-Star break last year. What was it, like 23 points, nearly 10 boards, 5 assists a game?
Yeah, something crazy like that. It was a sustained run. Even if the team wasn't winning a ton, it showed the potential was absolutely there.
But doing it here, on this stage.
That's the difference, yeah. This is a bigger platform than, playing tune-up games in September. This is the main basketball happening right now, and you've got guys like Giannis, Luka playing. When you shine here, people notice. Scouts, execs, fans. It changes the perception. And the sources are highlighting his versatility, guarding multiple spots, great in transition, playing efficiently, making the right reads, that high feel stuff. He seems more physical, too, using that frame.
Taking guys off the dribble more. I feel like I'm seeing more of that.
Definitely. Driving right, but finishing strong with the left, too. And that three-pointer off the dribble, that started to show up more late last season with the Blazers. It looks even more comfortable now. It just looks complete.
Assertive.
Yeah.
So, okay, Portland trades 2 firsts for him. They bring in Drew Holiday, Jerami Grant. They've got Scoot. They've got Sharpe. Where does this version of Deni fit? Does it, raise their ceiling significantly?
I think it has to, right, if he plays like this consistently.
Yeah.
The sources suggest it really opens things up for them. They could go small, and his defensive versatility would be huge there. Or maybe they go big, and he could even slot in at the 2.
Interesting.
But, it's important to remember, it's not like he suddenly learned a bunch of brand new moves. It feels more like a leveling up of everything he already did pretty well. More confidence, more consistent aggression.
Okay.
The real question, though, for his NBA path is, can he make that jump from being, say, a top 40, top 50 guy, which is really good,
Yeah, very good player.
to being a legit top 25 player, a reliable all-star in the West. That's a huge leap, especially out West.
That is a very high bar.
It is.
Yeah.
But he's making a strong case that he's ready to take that step. That crazy hot shooting he had at the end of last season, 45% from 3, probably not sustainable over 82 games.
Right.
But his shooting now in EuroBasket, it's solid. Maybe not scorching, but it suggests he's found a more reliable middle ground. He looks like a much more dependable threat from outside.
Okay, and he's not the only one turning heads. Let's talk Lauri Markkanen. Finland. He's been, what do sources say, relatively dominating. Seems like an understatement.
Yeah, dominating feels about right. I mean, even when teams are keying on him, like Lithuania double-teaming him constantly in that one tough first half, he still dished out 5 assists.
Which shows that passing development, right?
It's up.
Not just a scorer.
Exactly. It's impressive growth. And the overall numbers are just ridiculous. Averaging 30 points, 3.5 assists, plus 2.5 steals, while shooting over 40% from 3.
And getting to the line how many times?
11 free throws a game.
Yeah.
That tells you he's not just settling for jumpers. He's putting the ball on the floor, attacking, drawing contact. That's real self-creation.
That's all-star level stuff, continuing what we saw a couple years ago. So how does this incredible run feed into what the Utah Jazz are doing? Because their strategy, their timeline, it's always a big topic of discussion.
Yeah, and this fits right in. The message coming from the sources is pretty clear. The Jazz see Lauri Markkanen as absolutely being on their roster the next time they're a serious playoff team.
Okay, so no trade rumors swirling around him, despite the rebuild.
Doesn't seem like it. They're not trying to just tread water, be stuck in that basketball purgatory forever.
Right. Too good for a top pick, not good enough to win.
Exactly. They're going through this rebuild phase intentionally with the goal of becoming a real contender down the line. And the key distinction is they're building with Lauri, not necessarily around him.
Ah, okay. Explain that difference. Building with him.
It means he's seen as a really valuable, established piece who fits their timeline. He gives them that high-level play, that all-star experience, while their younger guys like Ace Bailey develop. He's kind of the bridge, the veteran anchor.
So the plan is Bailey and other young guys hit their stride in, 2-3 years. And Lauri is there, still in his prime, ready for them to hit the gas.
That seems to be the idea. He complements the young talent as it grows. Now, maybe in a few years, if they're really good, is he slightly overpaid as maybe the third best guy? Perhaps. But that matters less when your top guys are still on rookie deals, under cost control.
Sure.
And this EuroBasket run, it seems like it's giving him that energy back, that confidence. Remember his All-Star year? Coach Hardy said he was clearly their best player. Getting that feeling back, especially after maybe a bit of a dip last year with some injuries.
Yeah, he missed some time. Seemed a bit off.
Right. Sources mentioned some weirdness with his health that kind of zapped some of the zest from his game. So seeing him healthy, confident, and just dominating internationally, that's a huge positive sign for the Jazz heading into the season. And maybe he steps up even more as a leader now, with fewer big personalities around.
Moving past that, youngest of 3 children role someone mentioned he sometimes falls into. Okay, that makes a lot of sense for Utah's path forward. Now, quickly on Giannis Antetokounmpo. He sat out Greece's game against Bosnia, a loss. Any concern there for Bucks fans? Heart. Skip a beat.
Yeah, you always worry when Giannis sits, but the sources are saying this was purely precautionary. Greece had already qualified for the next round, the last 16.
Okay. Locked in.
Exactly. So it was just a rest day. Strategic move to keep him fresh for the games that really matter in the knockout stage. Bucks fans shouldn't be sweating Giannis's health from this.
Okay, good to hear. But the source mentioned their concerns might lie with literally everything else. That sounds ominous.
It's a strong statement, yeah. And it points to this idea that while Giannis is still Giannis, an MVP force, there are questions about the supporting cast and the overall team structure in Milwaukee.
Like what specifically? Depth,
Yeah.
coaching, fit.
It seems like a mix of things. Based on the chatter, concerns about reliable secondary playmaking, maybe some depth issues on the wing, how the aging core holds up over 82 games plus playoffs.
And maybe tactical adjustments. Can they adapt enough in a tough playoff series?
That's part of it, too. Are they too reliant on certain actions? Is the bench strong enough when the pressure is really on? It's not like one glaring hole, but maybe a collection of smaller worries that make people wonder if they can consistently hang with the top teams in the East moving forward.
Okay, gotcha. So let's pivot back to Deni Avdija, but look at it from the Washington Wizards side. They trade him, get Bub Carrington back. Now they see Deni playing like this. Are Wizards fans right to be questioning that deal? Hindsight is 20/20, of course.
It is, and you have to look at the context when the trade happened. The consensus from the sources really isn't about a winner or loser. It was framed more as a move that, for the Wizards, kind of had to happen.
Had to happen. Why?
Because they were just starting a deep rebuild, and frankly, they needed to lose games to maximize their chances at a top lottery pick. Deni, who was clearly improving.
Especially defensively and getting more confident on offense.
Exactly. He was becoming good enough that he might have actually won them a few too many games. He could have kept them stuck in that dreaded middle ground.
Basketball purgatory. There it is again.
That's the place you want to avoid in a rebuild. Being too good for the top pick, nowhere near good enough to matter. The new front office came in. Deni wasn't part of their specific draft plan or vision for the team's future archetype, so they moved him. His development had also maybe stalled a bit under previous coaching, particularly with the jumper consistency.
So moving him allowed them to fully bottom out,
Yeah.
clear the way for Carrington, who was their guy, and got them a first-round pick in the process.
Precisely. It let them reset, do their own thing. Portland got a really good ascending player. Washington got the pick that became their target point guard for the future and the freedom to truly rebuild their way.
So the success isn't measured by Deni's stats now, but by Carrington's development down the road.
That's how the Wizards have to look at it, yeah. Devine is a very good player, maybe even a future All-Star, but probably not that truly generational, franchise-altering talent that you absolutely cannot trade away during a rebuild. Washington actually did okay developing him enough to have that trade value.
All right, let's shift gears. Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham, obviously an All-Star last year. Some argued he should have started. The big question buzzing around them, can they actually have multiple All-Stars this season?
Oof, that is a tough ask, especially in the East right now. It is just loaded.
Yeah, it really is.
And historically, winning really matters for All-Star selections. The Pistons made that great jump to 6th last year, fantastic progress. But getting multiple guys in, usually that's reserved for the top teams. Think Cleveland last year with Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, Boston with Tatum and Brown, New York with Brunson and Suggs. Wait, was it Randall?
Yeah, Randall. Suggs is Orlando.
Right, Randall. Point is, you generally need to be a top 3, maybe top 4 seed to get that second guy in. Being just pretty good usually isn't enough in a deep conference.
Okay, so let's game it out. Who potentially drops off from last year's East All-Stars? Dame Lillard's gone west and hurt. Tyler Harrow, maybe not a lock to repeat. Pascal Siakam with Indiana's changes.
Yeah.
Could his team struggle?
Those are possibilities. Maybe even unlikely, but possible. If Boston has weird injury issues with their bigs, maybe a Tatum or Brown spot becomes vulnerable. That could open up, maybe 3, 4, potentially 5 spots?
Okay, 5 spots max, maybe? Who's likely lining up to grab those?
Well, you've got to think Trae Young is going to be hungry to get back in. Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner and Orlando, if they're healthy, feel like strong bets after missing out last year, probably due to injuries.
They were right there.
Then you've got Bam Adebayo, always in the mix. Desmond Bane in Memphis is technically west, LaMelo Ball in Charlotte, if he's healthy. Brandon Ingram, if Toronto, he's on Toronto now, that's right. Scotty Barnes. There's a lot of competition.
A lot. And guys like Cade, Brunson, Mitchell, Giannis, Garland, Mobley, they seem like pretty safe bets to return, barring injury.
Agreed. So those few open spots are going to be fiercely contested.
So can another Piston actually break through that? Ausar Thompson, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren. What would it take?
Honestly, it feels really unlikely this season. For Detroit to get a second All-Star, you'd probably need one of 2 things to happen. Either the Pistons themselves have to shock everyone and be like, a top 3 seed in the East.
Which would be a massive leap again.
A huge leap. Or one of those young guys needs to make just a crazy, crazy leap individually, like an almost unprecedented jump.
Define crazy leap. Like, what kind of numbers are we talking?
Okay, for Ausar, it's not just being an elite defender. He'd need a massive offensive jump, developing a reliable pull-up, hitting threes consistently, showing more playmaking, becoming way more than just a cutter and transition threat. Needs to be maybe a top 50 overall player, not just defense.
Right.
For Ivey would probably need to become one of the flat-out best scorers in the East, averaging, say, 24-plus points, but doing it super efficiently, like 60% true shooting, that level of scoring punch.
And
Duren would need his offensive numbers to explode, maybe like 19 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists a night, and he'd have to become the undisputed anchor of a top 5 defense in the league.
Okay, so basically, monumental jumps required combined with huge team success.
Pretty much. The East is just too deep with established and rising stars right now. It's a very high bar to clear for a second guy from a team that finished 6th last year.
Yeah, that puts it in perspective. Which leads us nicely into that recent interview with Pistons GM Trajan Langdon. It sounds like he's preaching a very specific message. That word, patience.
Oh, absolutely. Patience was the key word, wasn't it? He kept coming back to it.
Yep.
And it's clearly shaping their whole strategy, drawing on experiences from places like San Antonio, focusing on the long game.
So what does patience look like in practice for them?
Well, he emphasized valuing players under team control and having optionality in contracts, think shorter deals, 1 to 3 years.
Right, flexibility.
Exactly. It lets him do a couple of things. If a player outperforms his deal, he becomes a valuable trade asset they can flip. If a guy doesn't meet expectations, they can get out from under the contract easily without long-term damage to the salary cap.
It's calculated. Low risk, potential high reward.
It really is. It avoids getting locked into big, long deals before they're absolutely sure about a player's ceiling or fit. Very measured approach.
Did he touch on extensions for Duren and Ivey? That's always the big question for young guys heading into year 3 or 4.
He played it pretty close to the chest publicly, as you'd expect. Didn't give away much on specific talks. But reading between the lines, the sense from the sources is they're perfectly comfortable going into the season without extending either of them right now. Unless
they get a bargain. A team-friendly deal.
That seems to be the only scenario where they'd lock him up early, and that feels unlikely from the player's perspective at this point, right? They'll likely want to bet on themselves this season.
Makes sense. If one were to get done, who seems more likely?
The feeling is probably Duren, just given his established role, his physical presence, that unique skill set. But again, only if the price is right for the Pistons. Patience applies here too.
Okay. And what about team culture? Langdon talked that up as a big factor in their improvement last season.
Yeah, he credited the environment, the locker room specifically, said players were happy, knew their roles, no complaining, no drama. That positive chemistry, he believes, was huge for their growth, especially down the stretch.
Which could be tricky if they start adding more veterans, right? Guys used to bigger roles.
That's the potential issue he alluded to. Bringing in veterans who might see their roles shrink compared to what they're used to. That could definitely ruffle some feathers, as they say, and disrupt that chemistry they've built. It's a balancing act.
So with all this patience, did he give any win-loss expectations for this coming season? Is there a number they're aiming for?
Nope. He explicitly said he doesn't have specific win-loss targets.
Really? None at all?
His focus, he said, is purely on improvement. Being better in January than they were in December, better in March than February. It's all about the process.
Okay.
He framed this year as being about getting answers about your young guys, figuring out their ceilings, their floors. Are these the guys we build around long term? He mentioned Ausar Thompson specifically, expecting a big year after a proper offseason. Once they have those answers, then they'll look to press the gas pedal, maybe make bigger moves.
So more evaluation, less immediate pressure to win big, very developmental focus.
Exactly. It's a clear, patient, long-term vision.
Okay, let's switch gears one last time. The Charlotte Hornets. ESPN dropped a forecast putting them 13th in the East. Feels maybe a touch pessimistic? Or about right?
Well, the ESPN report kind of lumps them in with the Chicago Bulls, calling them two teams at a crossroads, which is interesting.
How so?
Both have talented young guys heading towards their prime. LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller in Charlotte, Josh Giddey and Kobe White in Chicago now. The report acknowledges those long-term hopeful building blocks for the Hornets, like Bayless, Noah Sen, Tansalon, Khan Knippel, recognizing they could push for a play-in spot or just as easily end up back in the lottery. It sees the variance.
But some sources disagree with lumping them with the Bulls.
Yeah.
Especially placing them below Toronto, given Ingram's injury history.
Yeah, there's some pushback on the specific ranking, maybe questioning putting them below Toronto. But the bigger point from some sources is that ESPN might be missing the fundamental difference in philosophy between Charlotte and Chicago right now.
Okay, what's that difference?
The Hornets seem laser-focused on acquiring and developing young talent and, importantly, hoarding draft assets. They've got something like 10 picks over the next 5 off-seasons.
Oh, okay. Asset accumulation.
Right. It's a strategy aimed at improving offensively while staying solid defensively, built around the star potential of LaMelo and Brandon Miller. They're betting on upside. Chicago, on the other hand, seems to be aiming more for just collecting 8 or 9 good players, maybe without that true top-end star power.
Which is seen as a flawed strategy in today's NBA. You need the stars.
Generally, yeah. That's the thinking. So the Hornets' approach feels more aligned with a modern rebuild focused on finding those franchise cornerstones. They kind of have that underrate us now, will be overrated later vibe, build from within.
And this outlook also hints that maybe some of their young guys aren't such long-term projects. Like Knippel could contribute sooner, Bouzalis might be in the most improved mix, ESPN potentially sleeping on some immediate impact.
That's the suggestion. The Hornets have intentionally created a really competitive environment with all their young players pushing each other. Sources say it's already raising the level in practice. The big challenge, though, falls on the new coach, Charles Lee. He's got to get all these kind of disparate parts to mesh, especially on offense. Think about integrating someone like Colin Sexton, who's used to having the ball, alongside LaMelo and Miller, who also need touches.
Yeah, figuring out that offensive hierarchy and flow is going to be key.
Absolutely. Getting them to play cohesive offense while keeping up the defensive intensity, that's job number 1 for Coach Lee this season.
Man, what a tour through the current landscape. From Deni Avdija maybe forcing a reevaluation with his EuroBasket play to Lauri Markkanen looking like the confident leader Utah needs for their patient build.
Yeah.
And then digging into these different team-building approaches in Detroit and Charlotte. It really shows how understanding the why behind the moves gives you a much clearer picture, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Those EuroBasket games, they're not just highlights. They're real data points about growth, about confidence, about how these guys might fit back in the NBA. And Yeah, those long-term strategies, whether it's Washington making a tough trade for a specific rebuild path or Detroit hitting the brakes on immediate expectations to focus on development. It says so much about where these teams think they're going.
So the big lingering question is, which of these patient plans pays off first? And which of these EuroBasket stars really carries that momentum forward into the grind of the NBA season?
That's exactly it. Those are the questions that could really shift the power balance in the lead over the next few years. It can be fascinating to watch unfold.
Absolutely. Well, you've been well informed. Check out our other episodes.